gasoline like water. Well, we've been turning in wrenches day and night. Well, we don't mind one bit if we get greasy, as long as every nut and bolt is tight. Keep on striving, keep on driving, keep on rolling down the road. The back streets of our dreams just keep on winding. They're leading us to highways paved with gold. Well, we know that as long as we keep driving, we ain't never ever growing old. Keep on striving, keep on driving, keep on rolling down the road.
Gentlemen, behold the future. The Lexus Hybrid Drive. This is this week's review. I got to put pen to paper on it and tell the readers in the Free Press what it's all about. And I got to tell you, it's probably one of the nicest cars I've ever driven.
Cool.
And it's an import, so you know that goes a long way for saying that.
What kind of imports would you like to drive?
Well, you know, I've driven a lot of these new imports. I think older imports would be cool. Like, you know, the stuff that I like I said, that has lots of wood finish in it, and you know, you can just tell it was.
Rattle off maybe a couple of countries where you'd like to drive some vehicles from.
Well, obviously like Germany, Italy for sure.
Yep.
And then I've been pretty hard all my life on British cars or United Kingdom cars, as you guys are well aware.
Yep.
Half a French boy, you know, what can I say? But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind giving those cars a second chance and maybe seeing what all the excitement is about, because obviously there's a whole nation of people. There's magazines and stuff, people who just go crazy about these cars.
Do you think you change your view on them a little bit?
I think you guys probably could. Think you could find me a couple to drive or what?
Well, that's our new mission. We'll have to try and find them some import vehicles to drive. We'll line them up at that track there. We'll try it out. We'll give you something very interesting.
Nice. Some import stuff.
Are you down with that?
I'm down with it. Let's make it happen.
All right.
No, I'm all over it.
You may get converted.
Well, I don't know about that, but we'll do our best. I gotta tell you though, I'm feeling the Lexus.
Hi, Jason from Willy's Garage.
Hi, Jason.
How are
Nice
you?
to meet you. Good.
I'm here to see the Cooper and the Jaguar. Want to go take a peek at them?
Yeah, sure. Right on.
That's a cool little car you got there.
Yeah, this is our 1969 Austin Mini Cooper. Full frame-off restoration completed about 2 years ago.
What do they have in them for a motor?
This one has a 998.
So you got the 4-cylinder engine here. We got the carburetors, the stock air cleaner, and the aluminum valve cover here to cut down on the noise. The fans over here, and it takes air in from the wheel and brings it in this way. The clutch is situated on the other side. And in between where the clutch is, there's the transfer case, which takes power to the transmission, which is inside the oil pan. So they share the same oil. It also takes fresh air from the outside here through this tube, and it blows it in when you're not driving.
The car also has sliding windows, which isn't really the most convenient thing. It's kind of a novelty nowadays to get a car with sliding windows.
How is it for trunk space?
It's kind of nice. It's got the twin gas tanks, Monza flipping gas caps. Everybody wants those. The guy who designed it, the way that he made the engine horizontally opposed, I think it's 80% of the area of the car is cabin space, and the other 20 is just the engine.
So it's actually pretty roomy inside.
Yeah, and the engine's like this wide, but it's also like that tall because the gearbox is on the bottom.
Really a bare bones car. I can see how they sold a lot of them.
Yeah, you sure got that right. But on the other end of the spectrum, we got the Jaguar.
What type of motor's in here, Paul?
Here, let me show you. This is the very famous XK engine. It's got a cast iron block with an aluminum cylinder head, 2 chains, 2 cams, hemispherical inline 6 4.2 liter. It's carbureted. It's got a secondary throttle chamber, and then the 2 carburetors on the outside for smoothness. It's got a heat exchange unit that brings the hot air from the exhaust manifold over to here, so the car warms up faster. It's a little bit better for fuel economy.
How much horsepower does it have?
This one's about 225 to 230, I think.
So what other kind of tricks does this car have?
Oh, just wait and see. They've got an air intake scoop with a collector and a tube that runs along the top of the inside of the fender to the inside of where your feet are. And when you're driving down the highway or just, at the speed about 60 clicks, you can feel the air just blowing right in on your feet. It's got a fully independent suspension system. It's got this really nice body line right here, lots of chrome, power windows. The doors are just so thick and robust, with the nice wood across the top right here. I just love it. It's got twin fuel tanks. You fill it up on the top like that. Trunk is huge. You can fit like 3 dead bodies in it. There's 2 fuel pumps. SU fuel pumps is one here, there's one here, and there's a switchover valve and the switch in the dashboard to change the valve.
Car's also the original paint color, which is willow green, which is kind of a classic 70s color.
You're not looking into the paint, you're looking at the paint when you're looking at the car.
How's the ride on it?
In the back, it has that Dana rear end, like all the hot rodders really want.
Yeah.
With the inboard rear brakes, the ride is fantastic and it's really nimble for a big car.
But it gets lots of looks, just like the Mini.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the interior?
Green interior, green leather, everything's leather. Solid wood dash, everything in there's original. Got lots of switches, just like an airplane too.
But Paul, you okay with Willie test driving both of the cars?
Yeah, I want him to.
Awesome. I'll set it up and I guess we'll see both cars in the test track.
All right, 1972 Jaguar XJ6. I gotta be honest with you, I've always been a little skeptical of a nation who drinks their beer warm, but maybe this Jaguar will make me turn the corner. It's kind of cool looking. It's got some sharp lines to it. It's got the dual headlights. Willow green, as it were, kind of a neat color. I like the big wheels and tires on it. Gives it a little bit of a bling effect. Dual exhaust coming out the back. This one's got the 4.2 liter 6-cylinder engine in it, so it should have a little bit of jam. And like I said, maybe this will be the one that helps me turn the corner. Let the games begin.
I didn't like my school. They treated me okay, but I prefer to
Hey, did anyone in this car see me touch this horn? I guess that it's a little touchy on the horn and it just seems to kind of want to go off on its own, which I actually find quite hilarious. But you know, Jaguar does surround you in the lap of luxury. They don't use any phony wood, it's the real stuff. The leather is nice and supple, as it were. The gauge panel is pretty sweet, actually. It's very aircraft-like. Smith's gauges, which up until this exact moment I'd never heard of. And I'm sure to British car enthusiasts I'm a complete moron for not knowing what that is. The dash is mint, there's no cracks in it, the steering wheel's nice. Just, the only problem is that the horn mysteriously goes off every few minutes. Even the horn is kind of British, sort of polite. You know, in North American cars, the horn's like, "Wah, get the hell out of the way." This car's more like, "Me, excuse me, pardon me, please excuse me." Like, okay, here's the horn. Oh, see? Now it doesn't work. Beautiful. I'm afraid it's going to shock me now, so I'm just going to drive no hands for a while out of fear that something's going to happen. The other interesting thing about this car is that, you know, I wouldn't have a clue how to do anything. I don't even know how to open the hood in this car. You know, this is one of those cars that I didn't want to like. For my entire life, all I've ever heard about is how British cars suck. You know what? I don't entirely agree anymore. In fact, this Jaguar may have actually made me a believer. Apparently it's worth $12,000. I don't know how many pounds that is, but I'm sure it's quite a few, and I'll tell you what, to me, it looks like it's worth every ounce of it. Holy, would you take a look at this little guy? You know, as a general rule, I don't typically drive cars that I outweigh, but I'm gonna make an exception for this one, because man, it is pristine. Here we got a 1969 Austin Mini Cooper. This is actually the Mark II version, built from 1967 to 1969. 429,000 of these cars produced. In the year 2000, this car was voted as the second most influential car of the 20th century, beat out only by the Ford Model T, of course. This little one right here is in absolutely pristine condition. It's in Colorado red with a white top. And if you take a little peek under the hood, I don't know why, but for some reason I always thought these cars were air-cooled, but I popped the hood on this little guy, and lo and behold, we got a little radiator right here. It's all polished up and detailed real nice, and there's a few other interesting features with this car. A hydroelastic suspension, which I had absolutely no idea what it meant, but upon learning about it a little bit, what it does, it basically, there's fluid running through here and it transfers from back to forth. So if you give it a good push, you can actually see that it's got a fairly beefy suspension on it. And another interesting feature, dual gas tanks. Apparently it sips fuel from both sides. The sole purpose of that was to allow for some solid weight distribution. So you know what? I have yet to climb into this car. I'm gonna make my best effort at it, and by all means, we may wanna keep the fire department on hand to help me get out of it. We're gonna take it for a little ride. Let's see what it's all about. Whoa, all right. Size 13 triple E's in a Mini. Let's try it out. You know, upon first inspection, you think of it as kind of a little novelty machine, but then you realize, hey, at a time when this car was made, You know, fuel crisis was a growing concern, and they sold almost 500,000 of these cars, just the Mark II versions from 1967 through to 1969, which is really a testament to the fact that, I mean, hey, people don't buy cars unless they like them. So there's a reason why this car has survived the test of time. And I got to tell you, this little one right here just goes down the road like a champ. Here we are in fourth gear. We're going 40 miles an hour, so you know we're pulling right down the road, and it's just cruising along like a champ. It seems to be a tight little steerer, very responsive. One of my initial thoughts was that just because of the small size of it, that I felt like I was driving a bumper car at the fair. But you know what? This is a real bona fide car, and apparently the owner drove this car all the way from Hamilton back to Winnipeg. And you know what? It actually rides pretty good. Once you get yourself into position in it, and you kind of find where you are, it's not awkward at all. So obviously, a great deal of engineering went into it. It's got some gear to it, for sure. Now, it's got this hydroelastic suspension, and we were really putting it to the test here. I mean, this runway is bumpy. It's been chewed up, and I got to tell you, this little car goes down the road nice. Here we are cruising along 40 miles an hour, and it feels just fine. The owner of this little cutie was recently offered $20,000 and he turned it down. And after taking it for a test drive, I gotta tell you, I agree, this car is worth a solid $21,000. Whew, look at that. Wow, what a beauty this is. You must be Richard.
How you doing, Willie?
Right on, nice to meet you, man.
Good to see you.
What a beautiful car, thanks for bringing it down here.
Thank you.
So what is it?
It's 66 Austin Healey.
Wow, don't see too many of these on the road.
There's about 4 in Winnipeg.
Is that right?
On the road, yeah.
So what are some of the special features of this car?
Well, a 3-liter straight 6, 150 horsepower, which is pretty good in a small car.
Sounded like something when you were coming down the road, I'll tell you that. What a beautiful paint job on it. What color is this?
British Racing Green.
British Racing Green.
The classic.
Yeah, right on, cool. So the spoked wheels, is that an option on this car? Or?
No, it's standard.
Standard.
Standard wire
But they're
wheels.
big, they're like 15 inches, right?
15 inch, yeah.
So you got a lot of money invested in this car. You sure you want to let me drive it?
No.
But you're gonna let me though, eh?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, wow, man, I'm excited. Yeah, that's the one question, is whether or not I'm gonna fit in there. Are you wedged in there pretty good?
It's a little
Right on.
tight.
Okay, well, get the hell out of my car then.
I'll try.
I just can't get over how comfortable this car is. It was really daunting at first looking at it, that I was thinking, would I even fit inside of it? But I don't feel cramped at all. I really like how it handles. Like, it's like pilot the Bombardier, come in Bombardier. I totally feel like I'm flying a little Spitfire fighter plane or something. And everything's very simple. It's all right at your fingertips. This car actually came with the optional British Motor Corporation AM radio in it. And there's something about driving in cars this valuable. You know, the steering wheel and things like that, they feel quite delicate. I mean, it stood the test of time, so it's likely that it's quite resilient, but I don't know, part of me is very nervous to really put my foot into this car out of fear of throwing a rod or something or breaking something in it. So really, it's a gentleman's sports car, and I'm compelled to drive it like a gentleman. You watch as I turn here that, you know, it's obviously lacking power steering, but you know, you're not killing yourself with it, and the big steering wheel is cool. Another thing that's neat is this is right on the steering wheel here. These are the turn signals. Modern automakers could learn a lot from this car right here. Every single important element of information is either directly in my eyesight, and everything that I need from my hands is accessible with my hand on the gear shifter. Perfect sense. This car's speedometer suggests that it goes 140 miles an hour, and you know, when I was really ripping it up and down the runway, I found, you know, 70 or 80 miles an hour with very little problem, and I'm almost inclined to think that this car is probably capable of doing 140 miles an hour. Wow, what a neat car. You gotta give me a closer look at this car. I gotta tell you, man, I was not expecting this at all.
So how fast did you have it up to?
You know what, I took a little glance down and I was doing a solid 70 miles an hour, and that shocked me that I was going that fast, because it did not feel like that at all. The tires, they're so narrow. And the modern day cars now, the tires are so big and fat on it, but this almost seems to improve the handling in this car.
They say the wire wheels do a lot of that.
I bet they give it a little bit of flex, eh?
spring, yeah.
Can we take a look at the engine? I really don't know anything about it. I'd like to have a look at it. So it's a straight six. What
Straight
size
six,
is it?
3 liter, 150 horsepower.
150 horse in a little car like this. Wow.
On a 1-ton car, yeah.
Well, tell me about the restoration. You owned this car for quite a while, you told me, but how did that come about?
Well, I bought it in '82 down in New Jersey,
Yeah.
and drove it back and started working on it. 27 years later, put her on the road.
Love to hear it. So this engine is really in this car. Like, it takes up a large amount of this hood right here.
Well, it goes from there back to about here.
Wow. So I mean, it almost looks like an aircraft engine, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has that distinct appeal. But I love this Austin Healey on the valve cover here too. Richard has been paying close attention on the Barrett-Jackson auction to the value of cars like this. And similar cars, a couple of them, maybe not even as nice as this, have sold for as much as $150,000 US. And you know what? After driving this car and sort of getting a feel for it and having a chance and having Richard, sort of give me the walk around with it, wow, I mean, this is a $150,000 car. This is what a $150,000 car looks like, and it drives awesome. Love it. Thanks a lot, man.
Great.
Cool.
Glad you enjoyed it.
We're here to look at your awesome VW today. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about it.
Volkswagen sort of did a retro reintroduction of an old German army vehicle.
Right, I was
called
going to
the
say it
Kugelwagen.
has a military vibe to it. for
Yeah.
sure. So what's up with the name Thing?
That's just what Volkswagen decided to do, because I guess when you look at it, you say, what the heck is that thing?
Yep, excellent. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about the floor here. I see it has wood slats on it.
Yeah, that again goes back to the German military era, when the soldiers used to drive around in these things if they had mud on their boots.
Right.
The mud is supposedly supposed to fall through the slats, and then it's a little bit easier to get traction so their
That's
boots
very
don't
cool.
slip around.
Doesn't look like the run-of-the-mill VW motor, eh?
No, they usually start off with a 1600cc four-cylinder, and this one is actually reworked when it's up to 2100 cc's,
Oh, yeah.
and it's got dual Webers on it. And
Right.
instead of the traditional roughly 60 horse, it's got about 130.
So you did the restoration on this vehicle yourself?
Yeah, with the help of a good friend of mine.
How long did it take you?
About a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Would you mind if Willie took this for a test drive?
I guess he could, sure.
Excellent. That's what I want to hear. Thanks a lot, Rick.
Okay,
we'll see
thanks,
you at the
Dave.
test track.
What the heck is this thing? The Volkswagen. Wait a minute, it's a Volkswagen Thing. Wow. I don't know much about these things, but I remember my parents rented one in 1979 on a trip to Hawaii. I've never seen one in person though. Very cool. Let's see what it's got for junk in the trunk. Wow, is that ever decked out nice? Normally this would have had a 1600cc motor, but this one looks like a 2000. It's been boosted up a bit. We got some dual carbs, dual air cleaners. What a beautiful job. Looks brand new. Now the question of the day, will I fit in the Thing? Let's give it a whirl and see what happens. I'll do my best to slide on in. There's quite a bit of room in the Thing. Let's see what she's got. I really didn't know what to expect with the Volkswagen Thing, but it's got a lot more jam than I thought it would. Clutch is nice. What a neat little car. It's like a Jeep, obviously modeled, somewhat after a civilian style Jeep, but the difference with it is it's got 4 doors, which Jeep just recently reintroduced. So it goes to show you that sometimes the oldest ideas are the best ideas. It's kind of a bumpy ride, but the thing it does have going for it is it's got a really, really comfortable seat. I'm sitting right down nice in it. I don't know if I'd want to tour across the world in this, but I sure as heck would enjoy, cruising around in a tropical island somewhere. If you had the kidneys for it, you could have some fun with this thing bouncing around off-road. It's got a holy crap handle right here you can hold on to. And like I said, this little motor, it's got a bit of revs to it. And this one, by the way, man, it's just restored beautifully. It's got orange paint, and I'm to understand that that this orange paint is a little bit of an update from a modern Volkswagen GTI. This one really stands out. It's just gleaming in the sunshine. Another cool feature is the windshield actually folds right down on it. So if you wanted to get a few bugs in your teeth, that'd be kind of fun too. But I'd highly suggest if you did that you put a pair of goggles on. I actually think in Canada you can't drive a vehicle on the highway or on the roadway with the windshield down. Remember when I was a kid, I went to Valley Fair and they had these little cars on the track, and it was probably the first time I ever drove it. It's kind of how I feel in this. There's just something enlightening and endearing about it. The one thing that I noticed with the ride is that it's very similar to driving an old school Volkswagen Bug. So obviously there's similar technology in the suspension and the floor pan and of course the engine. But the difference with this is, hey, the sun's shining on our faces. You know, it's a totally different experience from being trapped inside of the bug, as you will. And the engine, which I'm just going to give it a little bit of a run here, because it does have some sound to it. It's got some power for sure. I do, I feel like I'm on vacation. Like, where are we gonna go now? So these were made from 1973 to 74, only 2 years, and I think there's about 60,000 of them made. And the other thing that's neat about this is that the doors actually do come off without tools, as does the roof, and that windshield folds down. So really, you know, it's a very utilitarian vehicle in that respect. You can totally take it from being a hard top that's totally weatherproof and turning it into a complete roadster, if you will, with no doors on it or nothing. So I think that's a pretty neat feature. You know, anything that you can have that can do more than one thing for you. Volkswagen things like this model have recently sold at the Barrett-Jackson auction for as much as $20,000. And after noodling around the runway a little bit on it, I can see why. You know, the only question I have now is, am I gonna be able to get out of the thing? And I'm not entirely sure I want to. No way. No way. Sweet. That was awesome. That just blew me away. You were like that far from us. I just love this car. So tell me what the deal is. How many horsepower?
Yeah, it's got 370.
Oh man, I gotta tell you, we've been listening to planes take off around this airport all like, you know, the whole time we've been shooting this, nothing even sounds close to it. So what's the world's reaction to this car when you cruise around in it?
Well, in Winnipeg, it's amazing. I mean, it's looked at as one of the few Ferrari models, of course, on the road. And I guess a lot of owners don't really drive their cars, and I'm one of the few that'll drive it everywhere.
Yeah,
so
right on. So you drive this car all over the place,
I
right?
drive it a lot of highway driving. I take it out to the Gimli racetrack and do hot laps
Cool.
there.
So this wasn't the first time you opened it up wide open on a runway here?
No.
How fast do you think you were going when you just buzzed me there on the way by?
Oh my God, I don't know, probably about 120 clicks.
Oh, so what makes this Ferrari special? Tell me a little bit about it.
In 1995, they brought out the ground effects equipment so that it actually doesn't need a wing on it or anything to actually help it hold itself down on the road.
Cool, so it's got a pan right around it.
So it's got a pan underneath and you know, some diffusers at the rear that actually help suck the car down to the ground.
So I've seen guys that make this phony, they take a Fiero and they put a phony body kit on it. Have you ever had people like come up to you and say like, that's not a real Ferrari?
Well, yeah, and then as soon as they hear it, it's all over.
So tell me about this engine.
Well, it's mid-engine for starters, and it's really low down in the chassis for, of course, handling characteristics, just like a Formula One car.
Right on.
It's 3.5 liters, hence the designation 355. And the other 5 in the name stands for 5 valves per cylinder.
Cool.
So it's got 3 exhaust valves to just let it rip. It's got one major service that needs to be done every 5 years.
Okay.
And it's basically belts and bearings, and the motor has to come out, which is not that big of a deal because, again, they design it like an F1 car or a race car.
Yeah, where they take it over
where
Sunday.
you put it on a hoist and the whole thing just falls right out. As far as parts go, when you do need something, they're expensive.
Yeah.
So, but the reliability is there. It's just the cost of the parts.
So what do I need to know about this car right now before I get in here? Like about 10 times more powerful and 10 times more valuable than any other car I've ever driven?
Well,
other than that, it's pretty well the same, or
That's
what?
right. I mean, just as soon as you're driving it, it'll feel natural because they've built it around the driver.
You know, I've known you all my life, and I love you like a brother, but I didn't hear anything you just said there. This is without doubt the coolest car I've ever been in my life. God forbid I ever get enough money to actually own a car like this, because it will probably be the final week of my life. This car makes me want to be a better man. I mean, when you can go like this, it just doesn't end. And it shifts with this gauge shifter like a champ. You know, here we are now, we're in 4th gear, we're sitting at 3,000 RPMs, we're going 80 miles an hour, touch it, bang, you're into 100 miles an hour, just like that. Man, I have never experienced anything like this in my life. So Pete tried to explain to me that it's got a lot to do with the valves per cylinder, the small pistons, the slap on them. That off-road exhaust just gives it that deadly, deadly sound. I'm just gonna give it one more little bark right out of the hole here, and man. Totally, absolutely, positively crazy about it. Love it. I don't know if the camera can catch it, but my knees are actually shaking right now. I've never seen anything like it. So Pete, tell me right now, car like this, $100,000? It's gotta be all of that, eh?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you can probably get them for a little cheaper out of the States, but then you have to do modifications to them to bring them up to Canadian standards. So, so that's worth every penny, man.
Just threw me the keys to one of the coolest cars I've ever driven in my life.
Thanks a
Can't
lot.
thank you
No,
enough,
thanks for the
man.
experience
Awesome, that
of,
was so cool.
doing it.
That was beautiful, dude. Right on. Thanks, man. So we're driving in this Jaguar, and all of a sudden there was this fire, and then it dawned on us, you know, for a show about cars, we should probably have a fire extinguisher on the set. You know what? This car to me is, seems like a lot more valuable car than that.
That was horrible.
Yeah, I know. I'm just,
I have no idea what I got. All I know is the camera went across the room and he snapped it like a space drive.